Welcome to the Directors UK podcast. We're the professional association for UK film and TV directors. No matter the format, no matter the genre, our featured directors share their approach to the craft. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, my name is Toyin Ayinde, the Member Engagement and Events Manager here at Directors UK. Today, we have Coralie Fargeat and Ty West in conversation on The Substance. These two directors are making waves in the horror genre, and their discussion touches on the importance of trusting your vision as a director, the huge effort that goes into getting visual effects just right, and so much more. We hope you enjoy their conversation.
Hi,
Hi, Ty.
how's it going? How are you holding up?
Very good. Like I just arrived in LA yesterday night, so I'm super happy we managed to do this even remotely. The movie just released in France last week, and we had a very great start, so that was very exciting. And yes, I'm keeping receiving all the love for The Substance, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, that's very, very nice.
Is it strange having the film come out in Paris so long after the US? Does that feel backwards to you?
That was a little bit awkward, I must say, because it's true, like everything was happening like everywhere else. And for me, being from France, it's like you feel that the movie's already there, but in France, no one gets to really feel it yet. But at the same time, I think it was also great because the excitement for the movie also grew up with everyone seeing everything that happens, everywhere. And I think the audience was really even more eager to discover the film, benefiting from, having heard all the buzz and everything, especially all the Halloween costumes, which were insane. So yeah, I think it helped finally having the curiosity keep growing up.
How is it? Do you find that it was received differently in France than it was in the US or anywhere else?
I don't think so. It's still the beginning, so I have to wait a little bit to see all the reactions. But from what I've received so far, I think people are really impressed about how far the movie goes, like how original it is. That's the main comments that I receive. Like, oh, it's good to see something different. Like you really went for it. So I think. I think it's a bit linked to what comes the question you asked before, like having heard about it, people are jumping into this even more. And I think they react even more to getting the movie for its specificity,
Hmm.
because I think that the movie takes time to infuse, to be digested. And I think the fact that the movie had already been digested elsewhere made it even faster for them to receive this outstanding point of the film.
Hmm. Do you think that, and not that it matters, but does it feel like a quote unquote French film to you, or does it feel like you made an American film? Does it feel a certain way, or are you like, I just made a movie and whatever?
I think I made kind of a monstro movie, which is kind of the mix, of two different worlds, which is, I think, what also is specific to me, because I have a very American English vibe into the way I grew up with, my cinephily. But I am also very much French, in my love for cinema, in the author, driven way of making film. And I think that what I achieved here with mixing both elements, with working with the American industry, American actors, a movie in English while shooting all the film in France, and also do all my post here, made it very specific in the kind of total creative control that I managed to, build around the film, and also to be able to totally express myself in the way I wanted. So I really think I found the hybrid way I like to
Mhm.
work, which is mixing those two strong elements with a European, one European head and another American head. Um, and so, yeah, I really think I found my place in doing like that, which was quite challenging at some time because it was also very new in the way of making this. But now that I've succeeded in doing it, that's, I think, really something that I want to keep doing.
Mhm. Well, I think, for just my perspective on it, it was there's something very certain films that are take place in America but were shot in Europe. They, from my perspective, they have a very kind of like other quality to them where it's like everything's like almost I get it, but it's like a little bit off, whether it be a sensibility or whether it be a location that's like, yeah, that's a palm tree, but it's not quite the palm tree I imagine and things like that. For a film like this, it really lends itself to it because there's this strange like otherness to it. And I found that to be very like appealing about the movie because it's like it's almost Santa Monica or it's almost Beverly Hills, but it's like this odd, as almost to use your words, this like monstro version of it, which kind of is it's not it's I guess it's a little unsettling, but it just kind of puts me in this strange headspace, which I think lends itself to the movie very well. That's coming from an American perspective anyway.
Yes, exactly. I think to me, like the decision to shoot like this LA world in Paris was a very linked to the creative way I wanted to make this environment not real, but more symbolic of, what I was talking about, and also creating this kind of weird world that is in between reality and fantasy and the kind of, unconscious collective image that we have of this world. And that's why I felt it was basically making sense to do it in France, because if it was like trying to recreate the real LA, I was shooting myself a bullet in the in the foot by doing this. So I think when I identified that, for me the goal was to create more a symbolic version of LA, not doing it there was even more creative for me, because as you say, this palm tree kind of brings something in itself even more than it's the real LA palm trees that can have full scale. And I truly believe that these, production decision that you take in advance, when they're very linked to what you want to tell with a movie, are really what kind of set up in a very important way the DNA of the film. And this decision, I know when I said, okay, we should do it in France, both for creative freedom, production things, but also creative way of cheating and recreating something, was one of the most important decision for the film, I think.
When you first had the idea for it, and I kind of want to know how this ended up being your second film and how that started, but to kind of lead into that, it's a very stylish movie, and so was your previous film. And I wonder how much my assumption is you think a lot about style, but I wonder, like, when you had the idea for this movie, did you have the idea for the style at the same time? Like, did they come together, or did you have kind of the concept for the movie and then the style sort of found itself, or was it all just kind of like they came as a package?
So basically, the style, the visual part of the movie, and also the sound part of the movie really come together with my writing. And it was the same for Revenge, because I really tell my stories in a symbolical way. That's, the language that I use. I don't use a lot of dialogues. So I know that I found the movie and the script when I have found both, like the idea, but also in which visual world it's going to happen, because that's what's going to set for me the most important elements of the story, like what theme and what symbols and what ideas I'm going to be able to share with just a wide shot on location, for example, or a totally silent scene without any dialogue. So I know that I've started to find the movie when I found those three elements, like the story, of course, the theme, the visuals, where it's gonna happen and in which world. Like for Revenge, it was the desert that I knew was gonna be a very strong character in itself, like kind of projecting the craziness of the people in the landscape. And here it was the same when I found the idea of the Hollywood star unconscious collective mind, symbol. And also when I found the sound and the music vibe that I want to put in the movie, because I know that they're going to be strongly linked in the way I'm going to direct. And also because when I write, I really write the whole scene, from what you see, from what you hear, from every almost every frame, every rhythm, everything that you feel on screen. Also because I edit, so I have a very detailed way of setting my shots and building the narration. Um, so yeah, it really comes from the very beginning. And when I start having an idea, the first thing that I do before even having the story is starting to research visuals and sound. So I'm really, and they both, the three things come together to make the sparkle that's gonna, crystallize in being the movie. And for this one, I remember like also because I don't do things in order. Like basically, even before I have the story, I kind of start writing scenes the way they come to me, because I know that they mean something very strong. And for this one, even before I had the story, I just have the general idea. And I wrote the first scene that I wrote was the birth scene when Sue come out of Elizabeth. And I wrote the whole scene in a very complete, detailed way, which is exactly the way it is on screen now. It's the very first scene that I wrote, even before knowing who my characters were going to be, where it was going to happen, what's the story, the bigger story was going to be. Because I think those fundamental scenes that define for me what matters in the film. Like this is a silent scene, being very visceral, very organic, where you feel everything that the character is going to feel. And I know that this is the core of the film, and then I'm going to build the rest of it. But I know that the gem, the most important diamond and core of the film is this very beginning where I started with.
So in the script, you have shots in there and you have kind of the idea of sound effects and things so that people reading it are very much clued in to what will happen on the day and whatnot.
Yes, exactly. So it's very detailed in terms of shots, also in terms of sound. Sometimes it kind of look like how do you say not cartoon, but like the comics books where I write in big, like the sound, like when something grows bigger, like my font grows bigger, on the page, and also making the rhythm be felt, like all the silence, all the poses, all the when a wide shot is going to say something and it's going to transmit something. So I write more my script in a very detailed way, almost like a novel sometime, where I do a lot of descriptions of what you feel, of what you see, of all the rhythm, not caring about any rule, of what should be used or not used. I'm just like building what I want the audience to feel and see at the end where it's going to be on a screen. So I definitely write also the colors, like, the important colors, which is an important thing of the way also I tell my stories, are from the script, like, the yellow coat, all the also the colors from the locations, like the red bathroom, the orange corridor, all those things which are the most important symbols. They come really from the script, because they are important icons that are going to build the story.
Do you find, since the movie is so stylistic in that way, do you find that when people read it, some people get it, and then some people, like as you start making the movie, are like, oh, like now I understand. And in prep, are you kind of like, no, it's like this, and you realize like they don't see it, and then I find that it's, in making movies, the assumption is that everyone can kind of visualize in their head what it is that you're doing, and then you very quickly realize less people can do that than you think. And these aren't just people in general, these are people that you've hired to do this. And so you start to be like, why is this not clear when it seems so obvious to me and one or two other people? And for a film like yours, which is so specific in what it is, I was thinking about that as I was thinking about this conversation was like, do you find yourself in prep being like, these people don't get it, and then suddenly everybody gets it? Like once you're on set.
Yes, I think it's such an important thing that you're talking about, because to me that's the most difficult part of the process, as you say, for everyone to understand what's in your mind. And I must say that as much as you detailed on the page, as you say, no one or very few people are able to really picture what you want to do.
And you're like,
Because,
it says the red room. Why didn't you understand? But it's like a lot of people have to actually stand in an all red room that you make to go, I get it now. I see it.
exactly. And and also me, I work with a lot of references, visual references, but as much detail as you can be, like until it's done, and until like very, very few people are able to really picture it. Also, when you say like a giant amount of blood, no one can picture the real amount of blood that you want to spray there. That's why, at first we were thinking about shooting in a real theater, because like it was better. But when everyone really understood the amount of blood that I wanted to spray there, because I literally showed them with a fire hose in a street with water rehearsing, everyone was like, okay, we can't shoot in a real location if we don't want to go to jail, because we're going to destroy the place. And as much as you say, no, it's going to be a lot. No, I need more this. No, I get more that. Until you show people for real the thing that you want, it's very difficult for everyone to totally understand, the way you want to do things. Also because I think it's something that doesn't exist. It's prototype. It's something that's never been done the way you're going to do it. So there is no exact thing that you can show and say, I want it like that. You can give an idea, but to be able to show precisely the thing that you want to do, I think that's the toughest. And to me, like working with the head of departments, I think it's a connection that you have that is more or less easy depending on the people you are working with, about the one who get into your process easily, or kind of really want to try and find what's in your head, or people that don't really get it, or are not used to it, and struggle to get there. And I think that's what makes the great collaboration, is when the crew is really eager to get into your mind. But sometimes it's more or less, it's more or less easy. And sometimes it depends on the people. It takes more or less time for, getting in your brain. But that's the key. I think this is the toughest communication, I think, to really share. And a lot of people, when they see the final movie, say, oh my God, now I understand why this was so important for you. Now I understand why the little square here was something you were caring so much about. And I guess that's the thing. Until it's fully formed somewhere, part of the film is just in your head, with everyone that is going to be there, sound, music, editing. But all the other people, they just have a partial view on their part. So yeah, I think it's a very big challenge, to me, one of the most important one, when you start working on prep.
Well, it's especially apparent too, because I mean, you wrote, directed, and edited and whatnot. So, you see it all the way through in a way that few people can. And I wonder, like, I want to know, like, how much of it, how close you got to what you were aiming at, because there's always sort of the little bit of like, you get as close as you can, and some scenes got real close, and some scenes didn't, and maybe it worked out for the best. And I'd also wonder, when you're cutting it, what that experience is like for you. If you, I find that when the movie's done, you're very exhausted because you've somehow survived this thing. and then everybody goes home and they go off to do other things. But if you're the editor, you then go sit alone with all of the raw footage, which is not good and is not the movie that's in your head, and is you are now the people on the crew that couldn't see it, and you have to alone build yourself back to the place of that enthusiasm. And I find that to be emotionally very challenging. But I don't get to talk to too many people that write, direct, and edit. So I'm very curious to hear what it's like for you, both to see how close you got to what you aimed at, and then just how you emotionally survive the trauma that is making a movie when you do those jobs.
Yeah, I think like I love this sentence. I read somewhere like Martin Scorsese said like the first time you watch a rough cut of your film, like there is no other way than being physically sick and want to throw up. And I very much agree with that because I think that's a violent, yet like of course it's such a process to get to where you want to be, like the in between is always very stressful, very violent, and very incomplete. And it's a real process. And as you say, like especially for this film, like we shot more than 100 days. It was an exhausting, shooting. And so you arrive in editing already exhausted. And to me, I think that the post production is really the toughest part because that's when the most important decisions happen, but you're kind of in a weak space because you're tired, because you're alone, because you have everything behind you and you're kind of alone to stick to your film to make it the way you want. And everyone else almost is more in the scary thinking. Like people want to make safe choices. They want like for it to be as short as possible, as wide audience as possible, as not disturbing as possible. So it's the moment where you have to stand for your choices and your instincts, but you're very much alone. You're tired, and so it's really going to another war after having done your film. But one thing that I love with the edit is the beginning of it, when I'm still very alone with all my dailies. I haven't, because when you edit, there is a point where you get tired because you're seeing the same images 100 times. You feel that nothing works. Like, it's a very tiring process. But at the beginning, what I love to do, because it's the magic, is like crafting thing just on your own the way you had seen it in your head. And basically that's what I did for the birth scene, which is the first scene that I edited, and all the scenes that are kind of silent and need a very special way of being edited that only me knows, because I know that I shot it a certain way because I'm just going to use this bit and use this bit. So I don't do like a wide shot and then a close up. I just shoot the thing that I need. So I know that sometimes it's confusing on set because I start with a close up on the eye because I know that's what's going to be the most important for me in the scene. And the wide shot, I'm just going to use like so little of it that I do it at the end when all the real important stuff is done. Um, that's why also I don't really use a continuity person because I don't shoot in a traditional way. I shoot the beats that I'm going to use because I know that I'm going to edit that way, and I have everything in my head. And this I can find easily when I edit back because I remember everything I shot, everything I wanted to do, and these are the most important scene that take shape: the birth scene, the fight scene, a few like that, which really have this specific vibe of, as I was saying, being silent, being relying on rhythm, on sound, on very specific thing that I imagine from the start. So this is the part to me which is the best because you're still fresh. You have your shooting, but you're still fresh, and you're still creating something very special. But it's still scenes and it's not a whole movie. And after I did that, I think the second part starts where it's about thinking about the movie as a whole and what's going to make it be consistent and work from beginning to end. And for this film, the biggest challenge, as there is almost no dialogue, is that until you get everything, sound, music, VFX, it's so hard for people to also project themselves into what it's going to be. So, when you watch rough cuts, that the VFX is going to be like that. That the sound is going to be like that. But people, they say, "Oh yeah, I can imagine." But no, the truth is that they can't. So
That was
there is
literally my
part of
next question.
yourself.
What my
Yeah,
literally my next question was
absolutely.
that, which was basically like that moment when people are really anxious to start seeing it, and you've been working on it a while, but inevitably, especially for a film like this that is both symbolic and metaphorical and has all of these practical effects that will need maybe VFX enhancements or things that just aren't there with VFX or temp VFX that doesn't look great, or like, you might put in some, I'm curious to do if you do temp music and temp sound, or even if you do, it's not going to be like the 100 tracks of sound effects that you need to make it work. And then you have to show it to people who will then judge that and make decision. Well, will implore you to make decisions based on something that's not done. And for a film like this, that is a visceral experience, it's not necessarily about whether you understood that plot beat or if there isn't a plot beat here. It's more like, did you have a emotional reaction or a disgusting reaction or whatever? And if you don't have all those things dialed in, the answer might be no, which then people will think, oh, it doesn't work. And you're like, no, it doesn't work yet. And then that's, I find, one of the most stressful times, because you're just trying to like create that space to get a chance to give it your best shot. And then if you come up short, you could adjust and you can go, you know what, I wanted this to work. It didn't quite work. We're going to do something different. But I find it to be very stressful because you know what they're thinking, and because you're not there yet. And I'm wondering, especially on a film like this, and also, I mean, your runtime is like 2 + 2 hours, so they're going to even more think of it. I'd be curious to know how stressful that was.
Yeah, that's the most stressful thing. And to be honest, like something that I learned with my previous movie was that some scenes that make people very uncomfortable and that they want you to cut to not be in the film turn often almost always to be the scenes that are going to be the most important and most liked by the audience. I remember in Revenge there was the foot scene where he's going to dig to take out the glass of his feet, and the motorbike scene when we see this kind of hypnotic motorbike. Everyone in post wanted me to take this out to make it short, and I knew these were going to work if they were long, if they were obsessive, if they were over the top. And that's what happened. The audience reaction were insane during the screenings. So that was a big lesson for me, trusting this. And on this film, it happened too. Like the numbers of people who were so uncomfortable with the shrimp scene. Like I was amazed. Like so many people wanted to remove that scene, like to like make it shorter or not make it that many sound or and I knew like, okay, this scene creates something that bother people. There is something super important here. And I never thought in my life it would be a scene I would have to fight for. And that's what happened. And it's hard to it's hard. I mean, it's not that hard because some scenes generally don't work and it's better for them to not be there. But something they bother people and it means that there is something interesting there. And in the film, like the number of scenes that, they have been asked to remove or to do differently or to do less. And now there are the scenes that because I kept that intense, that much, that are making the audience so enjoying it. That's where you have, I think, yes, to trust your instinct. It's super tough because again you're tired, you're alone, and when everybody tells you something that is to say, oh, you should remove this, of course at some time there is part of you like maybe I'm wrong and they're right, but then you need to listen to your inner voice, like why I wanted to do it like this in the first place. And I agree with you, like I especially for a film like that where the whole sound design makes such an importance about the experience. When the sound design is not here, people just have half of what it's going to be. Same for the
Mhm.
VFX, you know. So, but again, I think on this film, like I had to fight to keep the most important scenes that made people uncomfortable, and I think it's exactly the same that happened for Revenge. These are the scenes that had such an importance, and that were successful in the end. So yes, I think it's always a matter, and it's tough because, as you say, it's waves, and sometimes you're tired, and sometimes you feel like maybe you're doing shit, and maybe like like you're wrong, and also it's hard to bother people. You prefer to be nice with everyone and say yes, but but no, when you feel that no, it's not good for the film, like yes, you're keeping your opinion and you're keeping your decisions, and you fight for it. I feel that that's my job, because no one else is going to do it for the film. I'm the script writer, I'm the director, and I'm the one whose job is to preserve the DNA of the film. No one else can do that for me. So as painful as it might be, I feel that I've always listened to my guts, that are kind of always give me the right answers in the end. But it's a warrior job for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think for what it's worth, the film, its excessiveness is what is why you're still talking about the film, and why 6 months from its premiere you're doing, whether this conversation or the many things that you're probably doing for the next several months, is that, if it had been shorter, it wouldn't have necessarily been better. It would have just been shorter, and I think the excessiveness of the film, it obviously connects to what the film was about, but it's also just the visceral experience of it is, by the end of your film, like it is in like bonkersville. Like, I mean, it's so, like, but it's like you as the audience, or at least me as the audience, was like, is it gonna go further? And then it does. And it's like, is it gonna go? And then it keeps doing that for like another 20 minutes. And I think that I would understand a world in which people are always trying to shorten things because people's attention spans and blah, blah, blah. But for a movie like this, that the DNA of the movie is the sort of excessiveness, it's like you either, if you're going to get wet, you might as well go swimming. And so I think part of what, at least I really enjoyed about the film, and what I think is really like resonating with people, is that finally somebody just made something that just went for it, because everyone kind of these days tends to half go for it. And I think for a story like this and a film like this, it's is the more disgusting the shrimp is, the better.
Exactly. Yeah,
But
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I think to me the most important thing that you have to preserve for a movie, because I really think that's what reached the audience, is the sincerity. Like why you made what you did that way, why, who you are as a director, what you want to create, and this sincerity, I'm 100% like reach the audience. I feel the audience feels all the guts that director crew put in the movie, the way you make the film, how you push like your vision. They feel that, they receive that, and I feel like everyone around can just help you make your vision better and like reach its goal. But everything that want to make you change your vision and not being the film that you make will never be successful to me. And that's the most difficult, because yes, it's a lot of people to manage, and but I think when you reach that, I think the sincerity of the film is its biggest strength. And that's what I try to preserve above all.
Yeah, I think when you make edits based on, someone else's opinion or something arbitrary or something to try to appease an audience, it's not to say that the instinct to do that is necessarily wrong or that other people have worse ideas or anything like that. But I think that you're right. I think that an audience can feel the intentionality behind a film. And so when a scene stops becoming subjective and it becomes like this weird, we're just trying to move it along, or we're trying to have less of this for the audience's benefit, it's suddenly a film for a little bit made by no one. And there's something psychologically that people feel by that. And because I think the best films, you want to know from the very beginning that like you're in good hands. And the moment that you start to feel like it's just information, you're no
Yeah.
longer, it's not curated by anyone anymore. It's just stuff. And then you lose the spell that you have on the audience, I think, with that. So even if you have to take people a little further than, even if your own film, you're like, if I could do this again, I would have done it in a more streamlined way to made this not go on as long because I have a way to do it. But I did do it this way, so we have to commit because shortening it is going to make it for nobody.
Exactly. And I also truly believe in movies' imperfections. I think, like, to me, the perfection is not the goal because a movie is like a person. It's, there are great stuff and there are things that are imbalanced. And I think it's the whole living thing that makes it react. And, sometimes, like, movies that I love, there are maybe scenes that I would have taken out, or sometimes you get a little bored or something, but I truly believe that these parts are part of the film. I don't think like perfection is what guides a movie. I think a movie is like, yes, is like a person, like all its imperfections are part of the living experience, and that makes it alive. And this is something, of course, it has to have a good balance. But I truly believe that it also goes with keeping with the sincerity and who you are, even if like it's going also with your flows and also with the things that are not perfection, because there is no truth in art. I think it's just like a living thing that you can just create and give to other people.
Going back to what you said about how you'll shoot, in whatever order is most important to you, and you'll shoot sort of the specific things you think you need for the cut or for the emotional impact of the scene. How is that with the cast? Did you talk about that beforehand with them and say to whether it's to me or Margaret or anybody, do you say like, hey, we're not going to really do like a rehearsal of the whole scene, or maybe you do that, or we're not going to do a master, like I'm going to just kind of focus on the things I need to focus on, and we'll get to where we're going. And what is their, obviously each person's different, but what is the reaction like to that when you're saying, oh, we're just shooting your eye and then we're going to do this wide shot for one part?
Yes, this is something that can be quite unsettling for the cast. Definitely, it's something that I discuss a lot in prep in advance with them. But I think it's like the script, like as much precise as you want to be, and how much explanative that you are on the day when things happen. Each one has to discover the way like everyone works. So to me, again, it's like feeling the line where I need to keep my process because I know that it's the success of the scene that is at stake, and the way I planned it, and also with a limited time that we have to shoot, which is a big consideration. But also, of course, try and find a way on the day to make it smooth for the actors. But to be honest, like to me, the way to make it smooth is just trying to explain why I'm doing it that way, why it has a sense to start like this. And I must say, like for Demi, for instance, I know that at the beginning it was very disturbing for her because it was not all the way she was used to shoot. She was used in a more traditional way, like making the wide shot and after doing close up. But I must say that once she understood why I was doing this, like she jumped into it like in such an impressive way, because it was really like not going at all with all her habits. But I think she had the intelligence to understand that it was needed for the scene and needed for the way I was working. Because in prep, I had insisted so much about the movie being about the performance, of course, but everything else that was creating the scene, the visuals, the sound, all the focus on the close up, everything that was at the same time very specific and very technical challenges that was also making us have to do things not in the regular order to find a way to make it possible. And I think like she kept that in mind, and like she really let herself enter that process, even if sometimes it was not comfortable for her and totally disruptive with her habits. But she had really the smartness to understand that it was the right way for the film and for me as a director. Um, and I do feel that that's where I think like also the magic happened, because for her being so focused on her performance and disconnected of the technique and disconnected of everything I'm talking about, what happened is like for every single shot, even if it was a close up on a hand or on a finger, she needed to infuse it with her own emotional intensity. So she needed to know exactly where the shot was coming, even if, it was a moment where we would see just a little something, but she needed to ground it in an emotional place. And I think that's what made the magic of kind of our two worlds and our two ways of working meet in a good place. And also one of the important thing is when everyone is aligned on the technical challenge that you have on the day regarding the time shoot, because like sometimes we had like 7 hours for her in the chair for makeup, so we ended up having only 2 hours to shoot with her. So I needed to focus first on what would be the most important, because otherwise I knew it would be lost. We couldn't do it again. And so sometimes it's the same. It's going a little bit against the stream to kind of preserve what's going to be important for everyone in the end, even if during the day it's more uncomfortable or it's more challenging. But again, my role and my job as a director is like to make sure that what she's doing will be in the best film and in the best way. And sometimes it's making decision that go a little bit against the stream on the moment, but that are going to be rewarded after all.
Do you enjoy all of the technical aspects, or do you sort of regret them once you get there? I mean, I know when it's all done and it's effective and it's gross and it's like, okay, that worked. But when you think about your next film, do you think about, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do this again? Or do you think, yeah, oh, it's gonna be two people in a room talking next time because I can't go through the 100 days of meticulously planning shots and specific camera movements and sound effects? I find that I have amnesia and then I mistake it.
Well, me, I love it so much. Like that's the part that I enjoy so much when I can have my hands in the dirt. Like, the more stuff I can do myself, the better I feel. And so all the technical aspect about all the technical challenges, for instance, the birth scene, the one I first wrote, it was such a technical challenge to be able to make it seem as a sequence shot from the moment Sue wake up and go to the mirror, wipes the mirror, go into looking at her eyes. It was like, 6 or 7 different lenses that were used with tricks that we did then to stitch together in VFX to make it feel as one shot, with so many different steps of prosthetics, with things that we shot at the very end of the shooting in a thing that we call the lab, which was one of the specificity of the movie, which is I kept all the close-up and all the thing with prosthetic where there was no actors for another shoot after the shoot with the actors. And we had like 30 extra days of shoot with just a very limited crews of 5 people and me in a little studio, which was like the kind of crazy professor lab. We had bits of prosthetic, bits of floor to do all the insert with, me doing the hand double or doing the injection of the substance or shooting all the cooking insert, the fly, all those stuff. This is the thing to me that I love so much doing, is kind of recreating those moments. And I love the technical challenge. This is something that I'm super interested into, because also the kind of build the rhythm that I have in mind for the film. So yes, this is really hard. I think also when I write, I know that when I choose where it's going to happen or what the story is going to be about, I really think about what am I going to enjoy to shoot, because the decision that you take are going to impact your life on the shooting, because you're going to be spending I don't know how many days in a location, doing something. But it's true that the movies, I think, react to one another. And after Revenge, I had spent like, I don't know, many days in the desert. It was super hard. Everything was tough. And I said for the next one, okay, I think I'd be good if I'm a little bit indoor on stage. But the next one will be outdoor again. Like,
Yeah.
to me, I need to change. I need to do different things and feeling that I'm not redoing the same thing again and again the same way. But I love the technical part of it. It's something I work very precisely from the script writing, the storyboards, thinking about all the technical things that we're going to have to solve. This is really part of what I think about from the very writing, because I think the way you craft things, the way you technically do it, is such an important part of the result you're going to have on screen as well.
The shot when she wakes up and is in the mirror for the first time, was that a like a window into another set, and then you had someone's hand in the foreground? And did you just rehearse them matching the hand movement back and forth and things like that?
Exactly. So we had absolutely a kind of a window where with no glass, and we had a second bathroom that was built with the operator. Sometimes it was Ben, sometimes it was me, like doing all the movements, synchronizing with Margaret, which was on the other set to kind of match the movement. And at first, we tried to have a body double doing the hand, in real time, but it happened that we couldn't synchronize that. So for that part of the hand, we did a special shoot for the hand movements in post once I had selected the take that I would use for
A
Margaret.
green screen, a foreground hand.
Exactly. So, and then we put that into VFX, the hand that we had shot afterwards. And for the beginning, it's like, yeah, different shots that we stitch together when it's handheld and she gets up. It's different part because each one had constraint with prosthetic, with lens, with set decoration. So there were maybe like 5 or 6 things done with different technique to make it feel that it's one shot. And sometime Margaret is in the other bathroom, and sometime we put a real mirror and it's her in the first bathroom. So it's
Mhm.
really like a mix of various technique to make this one.
I guess, did you find that because the bathroom itself is so sort of symmetrical that you can kind of VFX it back together even more easily than you could something else, because you kind of just have those tiles on the wall to work with.
That was for sure helpful. Like the idea of the bathroom didn't come for that. It was more like, when I was thinking about the this location, it was so important. I viewed it like that from the script. It was something that I needed to be metaphoric, to be kind of a mental space, that was representing the inside of the character facing herself. But it definitely turned out to be super helpful for VFX, because yes, you can do the transitions more smoothly when it's just a white tile with black lines. And so it turned out to be helpful for sure. And yes, this was one of the biggest VFX thing, the burst that we worked on from the very beginning of prep, when we didn't have the whole crew yet, till the post production. And this is, yes, I think the scene that took us the most of time to shoot. I think the scene took like maybe 15 days in total to get. This plus the little lab, thing. All the back opening is done in the lab with just a mannequin with the prosthetic back being operated by the makeup artist from under the floor. And yes, and it was the one we started to work on prep even when we were like, because at first there was just me, my first AD. I'm producing the film in France, but I work with the executive producer who did all the organization for the shoot. And this was the first scene we started to work on. So the early storyboards, before I even did everything else, with the storyboard of the birth scene, that allowed us also to discuss on a very financial matter, which was so important, what it is that we needed how many fake backs, depending on the framing, how much do we need to build? Because if you need to build the legs, it's a whole different budget than if you just build the back. So it was really like, where do I need to stop? Like, do you need to see the thigh? And I said, oh, so it was that precise because like every dollar matters when you're limited, and we needed to just build what we needed and not, spend money where we didn't need to. So it was all those discussion about how we were going to make it work, how we were going to do it. That's also what I love. We kind of invented our own tricks, our own way, because, sometimes you think, oh, maybe there is one way to do it. And you understand that no, VFX, prosthetics, everything, there is no
Mhm.
rule. Like each one makes the choice and builds its own way of doing it. So yes, it was the earliest conversation that we had. It was about this scene, like how many fake back do we need? Because once the fake back is open, you can't use it to shoot anything else. How you do the transition into the eye, the tunnel of light thing when we enter the eyes and navigate through the tunnel of light. I wanted this also to do this for real. It was really something that we didn't know how we were going to do. And until the end, we find a way to make it for real. And we happen like building kind of a device where you have tubes of lights where we were inside which we were projecting kind of images with different colors that we put in something that turns. And so basically it's like tubes of lights that turns on themselves, and our camera almost doesn't move, but as the tube moves and turn on their own, you feel that you navigate into the tunnel. And so that was to me something that I love so much, was to be able to, craft those things and finding how we were gonna do it. And I think it's part of, yeah, those scenes that, are gonna be also heavily invested of the spirit that we made to craft them.
Mhm.
And it started from the very, very, very beginning, even from the script. I think I start, thinking about how technically I'm going to do it. To me, script and technical really influence themselves, because also, being a producer, I know how much it's going to be if you write something, and it's about, okay, how how much do you want to invest in what? Like, I think you're right also, the language of the film for a very early time in about the scale of the movie you're gonna make on a financial point of view.
Mhm. My last ish question is, and you've probably answered this, but I'm very curious about when you first sent this script to me or to Mark, like what was your first conversation like? Did they probably more to me specifically, because I assume you didn't know her prior to this. I assume it was someone that you were aware of or a fan of and you sent it to her. I don't want to have you put words in her mouth, but I'm curious, like, what was it that made her want to do the film? Because to do a film like this is such a commitment, in every way, because it's not just because of the content, which is a commitment, but just stylistically. It's a real, like, you have to kind of give yourself over to that. It's been 100 days of shooting technical things in, it's exhaustive. And so I'm always interested in what makes somebody, what's the thing that makes somebody want to go do it? And so I was curious what your first conversation with her was like.
Well, to me, that was exactly what you said. Like, to me, the first conversation that I needed to have with her after she reacted, to the script, was to explain her exactly the intensity of what it was going to be. Like the 100 days shoot, the indie way of doing it, shooting in France with all the technical challenges, the fact that it needed to, the movie is a vision, like it's very clear on the script. And I think she had the intelligence of grabbing this, like, feeling that, okay, if she wants to do it, she has to do it like fully. I think it's
Mhm.
not the type of movie where there is blurry zones. And so for me, the most important thing was to really check that she was ready, that she had everything clear about the experience it was going to be sure she really wanted to make that film. Because I think there is nothing worse than having a bad marriage where you have different expectations. So to me, like, To be honest, like the subject of the film, we just needed to discuss 5 minutes. It was so
Yeah, yeah.
crystal for both of us. Like she reacted to it. It's something that she lived. I lived it. We lived it in a different way because we had different lives. But I think this we almost didn't need to discuss. It was like, so clear. But to me, to be sure that we were able to build this together, I wanted to be super precise about all the challenges and all the intensity that it was going to request. Also, the level of nudity, because the nudity is a tool in the movie. It's a real, tool to tell the story. Each nudity shot has a meaning. So I also wanted to run her through everything I wanted to film, why I wanted to film them, the meaning that it had, to be sure that she felt at ease with using that language, with telling the story that way, because I knew it was a super important thing for me in the way I needed to tell that story. Also, the level of prosthetic, the fact that I wanted to do everything for real. So it was going to be 7 hours in the chair, things shot not in the right order, things we needed to do before she even arrives to Paris with, body doubles to do the mold and the cast. Yes, the fact that it was going to be a 100 days shoot in Paris in a more indie way of crafting things, not the big Hollywood, production with 200 people. And the fact that everything around the visual, the sound, and the intensity was going to be part of building the film together with her performance. So I also share with her a lot of visuals, a lot of storyboards, a lot of references, of course, films that I wanted her to watch and share. Um, to be sure that if she wanted to come on the film, she fully knew what it was going to be, because I didn't want, like, after 10 days, oh, I didn't think it was going to be that. I don't think I'm ready for that. And to be honest, I can't speak for her, but I think, like, yeah, she felt that if the movie could be successful, because this film is a real risk taking. There is no other thing that really exists that is the same. So it's something new. And I think she felt that the way of doing this successfully was to go for it totally. If she was going there, she was going fully, and she had to trust my vision, because that was like what was on the page. And it doesn't mean that then there are not difficult moments, because of course a shoot is going to be difficult. You can agree to do something, but on the day when you have to do it, some things are tough to do. They are challenging emotionally. So, it's always something that you're crafting day after day. But I think what we set up during those preliminary conversations were, to me, the most important, and what managed to craft this movie together in a successful way, that everything was put on the table. There was no surprises, and we signed up for doing the same movie. And I
Mhm.
think that was, to me, what was the most important conversation that we had before starting working together.
Well, I think, I mean, just as a director watching it, I think part of what's kind of inspired to me is that, she clearly, yes, committed to the movie. And I had a feeling you were going to say that you only talked about the sort of like what the movie was about for 5 minutes. Because it seems like you would either get it together or you wouldn't, and if you got it, then it's like, yeah, we get it. But then moving on to the sort of trust you would have to put into you and to your vision, I think is a credit to you and whatever you would have said to her or whatever was in the script. But I think by her kind of giving herself over to the film allows her to not only be in the same movie, but allows you to shine a light on the best of the best from her. And I think a lot of times people, when they give themselves over to something, you would almost for sure have moments of insecurity or moments of doubt. And the idea of like, yeah, but just trust the director is like, it's easy for me to say that, or for maybe for you to say that. But if you're someone who's like, right, but I'm in the movie, I think it's a real credit to her that she did that and she went for it. And I think because of that, you're enjoying a lot of success with this movie, as you should, but so is she. And I think that's due to the partnership that you guys had, and that there's just a full commitment to one another in the kind of traditional director actor way. And I think it shows, and it makes for one of her like best performances probably of her career. And so it's just, from the sidelines, it's very exciting to see. And I love the film, and I wish you all the best with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's really it goes both way into what you invest and what you trust and what you commit to. And yes, the instinct there, I think, is a very important thing that she had and that she followed as well. Such the same thing that for me in a way. Totally agree.
Very cool. Well, super nice to talk to you and to finally meet you. And
Yeah,
yeah,
for me too.
I'm very stoked on your success, and I hope it keeps going. And it's there's something really satisfying about a movie as outrageous as yours, staying in the sort of zeitgeist as much as it has is really it's inspiring.
Thank you so much. That was really lovely for me to talk and finally meet you.
You can hear plenty more directors in conversation by subscribing on the usual streaming platforms. Follow us on social media and find out more about us at directors.uk.com.